Dingo, who do we look like? Jade's trying her hardest.
That looks great.
Did you get the mic picker out?
Yeah, does it? I just hooked it in.
Yeah, that sounds better, I think. So
Does that sound way better?
Did you click the little arrow and just make sure that it's selected?
Yeah, so I just hit blue snowball and then it connected.
Perfect. That's all. And
does it sound way better?
Say that again.
Does it sound better?
Yeah. Your lighting is hard to see you kind of, but
do you want me to move?
Well, I don't know what you're sitting at, but if the light can be in front of you instead of behind you, it's best.
Yeah, I'm in a high rise, so.
There you go. That's way better that side.
Is that better?
Yeah. You looked like an angel before with just the.
I always look like an angel.
Now you look like even more of an angel.
Wait, do I need to put sunglasses on?
No, but this is pretty awesome. You must admit. You kind of do. I don't know if we're going to rock this the whole interview. I don't know what happened to Jade. Let's see. She fell off this call. What happened to Jade? Oh, there she is.
I don't know why it does that. It really scares me.
I know. Does it just blank out sometimes?
Completely.
Okay. Dingo, you can hear Jade. Jade, you can hear everybody. We're all good, I think, on that end. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jade, I'm sorry about last week.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay. Let me turn off this thing.
All right.
We need Audacity up.
I'm hitting record on Audacity.
Okay, you want to test it real quick?
I already did.
Whenever I see your face pop up on my screen, it's too much.
It's funnier when I'm serious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, just stay serious.
I'm waiting for this AC to turn off. Why is it taking so long?
Remember when we used to have our guests turn their AC off?
Probably still should, but we just don't.
No.
Yes, melt in the heat with us. Testing, 1, 2.
Man, I just went through my DMs.
Mm-hmm.
And I got this girl I know, it must be a fake account, was like, this girl I know's boyfriend killed my friend, please help.
What the fuck?
Fucking weird, right?
Do you get a lot of weird stuff like that?
Sometimes. I can't take you serious right now.
That's
Oh, we were supposed to already be wearing this when you signed on. How good
it's just to be a surprise.
Jade looks like she's DJing at what's that guy on?
No, I'm Weekend at Bernie's. I am Weekend at Bernie's.
No, the guy on Mad TV or no Saturday Night Live when he used to do those skits where he would sing. He'd do a music video. I can't remember his name, but that's
Dingo seems to know the answer.
Anyway, this is our.
I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer.
This is our Dingo look. It's a little warm, so we might have to take it off pretty soon here.
It's also uncomfortable under the headphones.
Well, yeah, because the sunglasses hit the headphones.
It gets really uncomfortable.
Maybe
it's not. That's what I really look like.
It's
people.
A good look, right? We're pulling it off. Okay, but seriously, so that you could take us seriously, because some of these questions are too serious.
Yeah, and these make you
Yeah,
tired.
I'm taking it all off. We just needed that for a clip we're going to probably
Just
use at some point to promote this.
All right.
We should get you with your glasses on, though, for one snap, just like a full panel. Oh, he's getting them. Okay, put yours back on, Jade. Just kidding.
Shit. I need the bucket hat.
Yeah.
They're over my headphones is funnier.
Oh, that's that looks even better. Oh, I'm sweating in here. I came from a run straight from this. Straight to this.
All right.
Let's see
We're
it.
back.
Oh,
Amazing.
it's perfect. Look at us.
Look at us. Look at us.
I can't even put my headphones on. All right.
We are the trio right now. We're the
we
Blues
got it.
Brothers or the Dingo Band. We're not sure, but it's
We're
good.
the Dingo band.
We're all of the above.
Jade, with the hat over your headphones, it's looking real good.
I
Real good.
know.
Yeah, listening audience, hopefully you get a piece of this, but hopefully you get to see it on Instagram or something. We are all wearing the Dingo look right now.
Yeah, I like that. You guys showed up.
Yeah, in
looking
solidarity.
great. Yeah, and then I showed up looking like a homeless man.
All right,
I
so
like a
let's.
homeless man too.
Yeah.
Don't I?
You do. You look like a homeless man that's been a Burning Man for like 2
That is
weeks long.
I've actually been told that before today. I have.
Amazing. Okay, I'm taking this off though because it's too hot.
You guys did good.
Let's get going on the actual podcast, guys. Like, can we get serious for a minute?
Whew, it's bright.
Okay.
It's got real bright. All right. All right, you want to start?
Yeah,
That's what you look like, Jade.
That's what.
What?
Soak it in. Oh
kidding.
my goodness. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to read an intro for you, and then we'll get into the questions and all that.
Mercedes, I'll be right back. 1 second.
Okay,
Sorry.
just kidding. Jade has 2 toddlers, so we struggle once in a while with that.
I like that. That's
Yeah.
why she has to be in bed at 9:30.
Literally, she has to be up before 7 in Austin, so that's 5 a.m. our time.
That's crazy.
Yeah. No. Okay. Are you gonna do kids?
I don't have any. I don't have any kids.
But do you want to?
Do I want kids? Yeah, I want kids. Well, I kind of illegitimately picked up 3 kids this year. So like,
Oh yeah. You're foster dadding from afar, essentially.
pretty much.
Who are they?
My brother's kids.
Oh, what's going on?
Well, my brother passed away in January, so there were 3 kids left. So there was a 9-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old.
Wow. And so, what's your role right now in their lives?
I mean, we're the only brother. He was my only brother, and I know, just kind of being supportive and being there for the family.
Guys.
No worries. Wow. Well, we'll get into that more when we get going here because I definitely want to ask you about that. That's interesting. Okay. Our guest today is a man of many talents, entering the world of professional snowboarding in his early teens when he immigrated from Australia to America. On his own since age 15, he spent much of his time couch hopping and struggling to, quote unquote, make it in his early years in the snow sports industry. His story unravels, though, through a series of highs, lows, and reinventions that say as much about his resilience as it does about the land of opportunity his story plays out in. He's had his hand in it all, from helping build the very popular snowboarding glove and apparel company Grenade from the ground up, to his transition from snowboard personality to TV personality, where he's known globally for his TV series The Adventures of Danny and the Dingo, as well as his extensive TV hosting resume, including hosting the MTV Music Awards, to being largely recognized as one of the faces of Monster Energy. Now, at only 33 years old, he's a bit of a living legend. And in this new chapter of his life, he's highly involved with mentoring kids of all ages by sharing his own story of battling depression and thoughts of suicide. In this episode, we plan to explore all of what brought this man from a limited mind state of "it's all about me" to his new, more expansive mantra, "how can I serve others?" Please welcome Luke Trembath, aka the Dingo, to the Magic Hour.
Yay!
Oh, that was really sweet.
How you doing? My voice is already hoarse because I've been cracking up laughing because of our outfits for this show.
Wait, so did you guys have those outfits ready when we first started
Yes,
trying to
the entire time, and we were crying,
So,
like with laughter. I mean,
for the listening audience, we were going to interview Dingo last week, and we were wearing our Dingo outfits, our hat and glasses and everything in full effect. And then he had something go on at the office and couldn't make it. So just Jade and I staring at each other.
and then we had to rehearse something else, and I think we kept them on.
That's great.
We didn't know
That's
if you were going to
really
pop in or not.
Yeah, well, I tried. I'm here now, though. I'm here
Yes,
now. I'm
so
here
glad.
now. Yeah.
And by the way, does anyone call you Luke, or everybody calls you Dingo at this point?
Yeah, it's like a mix, like with Find Your Grind and it being so educational and like so left field of the industry that I was like raised in, I'd say essentially. I have an email essentially that has my real name in it, and when I meet people, and when we're on conference calls and whatnot, we use the word Luke. Just so it's not confusing, or we don't have to explain why there's a dingo in like an education meeting about,
Makes sense.
All sorts of things. But listen, it gets confusing. But yeah, no, like, my mom calls me Dingo, and I think like a lot of my friends do, and I respond to both. But like early on, it was just the Dingo. I think for a long time, pre like social media and pre those days, like when there were just magazines and TV, it was like one of those things where people really didn't know my name. Now I'm pretty loose about it. I think I actually I added it to my Instagram because it's easier if they want to search or do whatever they got to do. It's just Google my real name. It's simple. And I think everything you need to find out about pops up. It's not like I'm trying to be this mysterious like character anymore. And I think it was a name that I used. So how I first got it was the first full page spread in Snowboarder magazine when I was like 14 years of age, and it said the Dingo. And I, like previously that year, it was like I'd first moved to America, and my friends were calling me like Dingo, Wallaby, Kangaroo, all these like weird Australian names. And then the Dingo kind of stuck, but the first full page print of me that came out in Snowboarder magazine just said the Dingo, and from like 14 years of age, it was the Dingo.
Cool. Well, we're going to definitely dive into some deeper topics here. But I wanted to mention to our listeners, for anyone who doesn't know you or know what you look like or your style, you basically started the classic, what I'm going to call the classic snowboarder look. And he's got the long hair, usually rocks sunglasses and a hat, and it's a very specific look. So when did that iconic Dingo look become official?
I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like there was a period where I think there was just a few of us that looked like that. And the next thing you know, like everything, I think it was around like 2006. I think that's when it kind of like was adapted. And it's funny now because like as I'm older, I'll like go to X Games or go to these events, and the kids today still like they all dress the same. It's like they dress like we dressed back then. So it's pretty funny, and the long hair thing kind of like stuck out. But I'd say like 2006, and it's weird to me to like look at that, because even back in the day, like the face mask thing started because I didn't want to get sunburnt.
Yeah.
So then I started putting a bandana, and then it ended into this T-shirt, and then like Shaun White like stole the sleeve idea from me, and then started wearing the sleeve over his face. But that all started from like just not trying to have a goggle tan.
Yeah.
Because I was in the snow so much, I had like a permanent goggle tan. So I was just trying to not get a goggle tan, and then it turned into this whole other thing. But it's
just trend setting.
It's kind of weird. Yeah, it's super weird.
It's kind of cool. Yeah,
it's cool. It's definitely cool. It's cool because like there were some kids that have like done interviews like big ones after like the Olympics and stuff, and they've all like they still note me for it. So it's like Sage Cutterberg and those people. So it's like an honor, It's like it's
such a part of the industry now. It's cool.
Yeah.
So bring us back before being the Dingo was even on the horizon. What are some of the highs and lows that stick out to you as you've made your way from your childhood self to today?
You know, like I really think that I came from like a regular like working class family in Australia, and like the things that stick out to me are like not positives. You know, like my father left me and my older brother and my mom when we were pretty young. I was 9 at the time. My brother was 14, and I think that was really tough. You know, and to have to deal with a separation at a young age and the way that it kind of happened. You know, like dad had left to get a better job. And listen, like my dad, when he was at his peak, was the one that would take us camping, got me into skiing, snowboarding. I started skiing at like 3 because of my dad, and so did my brother. And I got into snowboarding because of my dad and all these things. But, you know, he would take us camping and he would rip us out of school to put us on the boat and go fishing. And then all of a sudden he was kind of gone. And I think that was like my first like real heartache that I dealt with at like a really young age. So like, it's weird when I look back on my memories of how I got to America and how it all kind of happened. It was definitely a little bit of pain, you know, but without that, I don't think it would have happened because, you know, a lot of people don't know that my mom, I was junior national champion when I was really young. I think I was like 11 or 12. So I started traveling internationally on our summer break, which is America's winter break. So it was like vice versa. But it kind of got to the point where like the US team wanted me to come and start training in America. And, you know, my dad had been gone like 4 years or whatnot. And my brother like had his own issues and he had just turned 18 to move out of the house. And I had this like kind of, you know, weird opportunity to come to America and train. But my mom sold the house and like sold everything and had to come with me in the beginning to do it. And she did. And it was like looking back on it, it all happened so quickly. But, you know, my brother was like, yeah, like take the opportunity. And my mom really like gave up her life to like pursue my dream. And we were all kind of like going through this kind of struggle at a time. I remember like being in we were still in a hotel in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. And mom just like, what the fuck am I doing? And I was just like, oh, I don't know. But we were over, we'd made it to America and, you know, like it all happened pretty quick. And I look back on it now. And so mom cleaned houses for a year while I trained in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, with the U.S. national team. And then she didn't have a legal visa, so she had to move back home. And then I moved. That was kind of like the mecca of snowboarding, had moved to Mammoth. So I'd moved to Mammoth and was like sleeping on couches for like 2 years while going to homeschool, whilst trying to still become a pro snowboarder. It was all like I look at like 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds now, and I'm like, holy shit, like how can they survive on their own? And here I was like on the other side of the world, like, you know, just trying to make it happen. But I think like it was all kind of for the bigger picture, but I had to go through that heartache and our family kind of, you know, my brother had, you know, been involved in drugs and whatnot from like an early age. And it was kind of like get out or go down the same path, you know, and it all, you know, and like, you know, like our father wasn't necessarily in our life. So it was all kind of a weird time. It's unfortunate, but like, that's kind of like the earlier memory I have, you know. Before that, it was, you know, I think just regular Australia kids, like, you know, we all grew up kind of by the water. So we surf and we ride BMXs and you kind of just do that until you think that you're going to have to get an apprenticeship and get a job or become a carpenter. And I was just at that right age to where I kind of got out of there. And once I got here, I was like, I'm not going back.
Yeah. How did that play out into your adulthood?
Not good, because I ended up in like a severe depression when I was like 22, and I'd been successful for, I think, you know, nearly like a better part of like 7-8 years. You know, from like a late teenage success to early 20s, and Grenade had started, and my snowboard career had like, even then, like started to like switch. Everybody was getting so much better. And for me, I like had started like working in media and we had started Grenade. And at that time, like I, you know, then picked up a microphone. So I was still snowboarding while doing media, which was also kind of like one of the first to do it, especially from extreme sports. You know, we'd always had these like announcers and hosts and people that like maybe weren't from like the trenches of the sport. So I was able to like give this like unique angle on it because I was a snowboarder and I had like, you know, essentially come through the trenches. But then we lived this like crazy life, you know, and we became really successful at a really young age. You know, with Danny, like Danny's first Olympic medal, who was my partner in Grenade, his first Olympic medal, he was 19 and that was 2002. And he got silver at the Olympics in Park City. Ross Powers got first, JJ Thomas got third. It was like the first American sweep in 52 years. And then come from that, like 2002 leading into like 2006, snowboarding all of a sudden was like, you know, on a mainstream level, and these corporate companies were throwing like crazy amount of money at us. In that same time, we'd created Grenade Gloves, which was like this really core brand for snowboarders by snowboarders, but also it got really big. And we were running a gigantic business as teenagers. So like what comes with that is like, you know, we didn't pay taxes on certain things and had 35 of our friends working for us. And like maybe, you know, 3 of them could have told you what they did. You know, we had warehouses that were full of pinball machines that should be full of product, and we weren't shipping on time. But people were still buying our stuff. I think by like 2006, we were like the #1 winter apparel gear in Zoomies.
Wow.
And we were like competing against, you know, the Quicksilvers and the DCs and all these people. In that same time, that's when me and Danny had launched the TV show Adventures of Danny and Dingo, that came out on Fuel TV, which we did 49 episodes over like, I think it was like 6 or 7 years. But in the middle of that was when I fell into my huge depression. It was like 2008. And again, like it goes back to like my childhood and then the life I lived as a teenager into my young 20s. Nobody had prepared me for any of it mentally.
Right.
So like, just because you're succeeding doesn't mean that you're like mentally stable. And these are all things that I'm still learning now. And spend time in therapy and trauma therapy and all these things to like deal with and understand like what I was going through and what I had hit. I'd hit a wall and I was embarrassed to tell my family that I was like mentally not well. I was embarrassed to like tell my friends or employees or people that worked for us, because people looked up to me and people looked up to us and people needed us, and my family was, you know, it was just. And what I should have done was like the first time I was like, wow, I like don't feel right. And the first time, you know, the first day I wish that I thought about suicide, which I thought about for like over a year and a half, every single day. Wow. In the peak of like what I was going through. And it was 2008. So it was right when the economy crashed. We had our own issues of what we were doing with as dealing with as not on our professional side, but on our business side of trying to run a company. We had all these companies giving us lots of money. And then it was all going back into Grenade and making Grenade stay afloat. But we didn't know what we were doing on a business front there. We were kids essentially running a business, having stuff made in China, Taiwan, getting it shipped over, getting all the shipping, getting that done, then having it shipped out, dealing with like the 36 countries that we were dealing with. And when the financial crisis hit, like we had to like really like our doors almost had to close, and we had to like get rid of a bunch of real estate and close down. And, you know, like the one thing that we never dealt with was like, because of with Danny and everything that we had going on, we never had to borrow money from the banks. So like it was all on us. And then when that kind of imploded and we had to fire all of our friends, which was like the hardest thing I ever had to do.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden these people that you like know and love don't care about you anymore. And you're thinking they're your best friends. So then it's like you and your other best friend. And, you know, we had to hire like, you know, a CEO to come in and like run it as a business. And then all of a sudden everything just changed, you know, and for me, it all imploded on the fact of like mentally, I wasn't built to deal with any of that stuff. I think I was like 21 when I first like kind of like fell into a depression, and it was like, maybe I think I was 22 and a half, like nearly 23 when I tried to commit suicide, and I ended up in a hospital, but I had been sick for like a year and a half, thinking about suicide like every single day. The first thing you think about when you wake up, the last thing you think about when you go to bed. And that in itself is like, that's an illness.
Yeah.
And I never addressed it. And I just got up every day, went and filmed this show, oversaw this thing, had to be at the trade shows, had to be the face of this, had to be the face of that. But wasn't taking care of myself. And it goes back to even, when I was a kid, I feel, I got to live this like super privileged life. But then again too, like nobody was there like guiding us through like what we were like dealing with mentally. And we all kind of ended up having our own, essentially, I don't know, like depressions or blowouts in completely different ways though too, but both myself and Danny like really went through it on our own, and where we're at in today's society, like I got to a point to where I was like, it all happened really quick. I like came over to America to, ride a snowboard, and that was all I really thought about. And then that happened and some, and it all happened really quick. And I never like was able to like stand back and be like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Like, how can I like, I want to look at the next phase of my life and I want to do what I want to do. And helping people was like, something I wanted to do. And being able to like talk about what I had gone through. And I still didn't know how that process was going to happen. It wasn't until I met one of my partners now, Mike Smith. But, I lived like that up until, I don't know, like 2013.
Yeah. And growing up, with an absent father is not nourishing. So that I'm sure had a lot of the trauma, a lot of that was rooted there.
Hugely. Like I remember when I was like seriously like sleeping on a couch and like didn't really have a father figure of a type. I always had a close relationship with my mom, but I was on the other side of the world and I just like wanted this person to love me.
Yeah.
And they're not there. I used to cry about it. I used to lock myself in a closet. I used to cry about it.
So during those times, those dark times, and also later on in your early 20s, when you were in the midst of that darkness, what was it that did help you see the light at the end of the tunnel, or from losing all hope?
Listen, like waking up in the hospital and like having to like look at a doctor and, then go through the process of telling your family, and like that process is like, that's almost worse than the process itself of like committing. Because once you commit. And then once you wake up, you failed. And then you've got to tell your whole family and loved ones of like, and you would think you would still wake up from that part, but it's still like, I still like faked it for a long time. I don't think it was till I like wanted to like accept it and then acknowledge it and then want to fix myself. And I don't think I tried to fix myself until, I definitely band-aided situations, but I like never really tried to fix it until I think like 2013. And it really wasn't until I started like speaking to young kids about what I'd gone through and like hearing their stories and me telling my story, especially
stepping into your calling.
Yeah. Like it was like better than therapy for me. And I was able to like have like real one-on-one conversations with kids that had like gone through the same process I'd gone through. And all they ever want, or anyone, is like you want to be heard, and a lot of these kids feel like they don't have a voice, and for whatever reason, I did too, and
right.
it doesn't matter who you are or what you've been through. We all have issues in life and things we need to overcome, things that we're going to need to overcome, and it's about how you deal with those situations and how you get to the next step. Is how you're able to like come out of it. And for me, it was looking the same kids that had because, and two, it's like one of those things that people don't realize, that unless you've gone through it or had those feelings, it's hard to like justify or look and be like, oh wow, how are they not okay, or how are they not this or that. But until you step into somebody else's like shoes and try and understand, and that's all I was trying to do. And when I like realized that that's all these kids needed, that's when my like life definitely changed, and like my philosophy of it always been me. And I think society builds people up to like get a bigger house, get a bigger car, do more for you. It's what's kind of like thrown into us every day. Especially when you're like a kid going into school and then you're getting a job, and like it's always get the bigger job, get this, get that. you know, I just, you know, strongly think that it's not about, it's not about what can you do for you. It's about what can you do for them, what can you do for others, and in return, what you get out of that yourself is much more than doing anything for yourself. It's kind of insane, actually.
I think that depression is really it's simply a lack of hope for the future, and a lot of young kids, whether they've been told it by their parents or somebody else, a lot of them just feel like they're not going to amount to anything, and they just need someone to tell them that they can and that they will.
I think also what I'm hearing from your story, Dingo, is that your life was so busy and you had so much coming at you from every angle. You didn't have a moment of stillness to really reassess, okay, what direction do I actually want to go? Who am I right now? Like, that's a huge question that I think if we can get everyone to ask that daily, you know, who am I right now and who do I want to be? And just assessing that from a place of knowing that it's okay to ask that question, and it's okay to have an answer that doesn't fit into a certain box of, you know, anyone else might be putting out there and saying you should fit into. But yeah, it sounds like stillness was something that wasn't really a part of your life. You were just like sleeping on this person's couch, then going, you know, interviewing these guys, and then you're with Grenade and you're doing all these things a million miles per minute. How could you have a chance to even really think about the shit that's bugging you deep down behind that you're not able to look at? So I'd say, especially as young people, but sometimes also much later into our lives, we really don't know how to respond to the chemical imbalances that we experience in our minds and bodies. And we don't always have the tools to respond appropriately to whatever comes with those imbalances, like panic attacks, anxiety, depression. These are all ways that expresses through our bodies. And the fact is that when we're experiencing these things, it can feel hopeless, like Jade said, in the moment. And it's something that unfortunately can end in suicide. So I want to ask you, what would you tell someone facing that type of darkness in themselves right now?
You know, like, I think for me, I always try and you got to look at the positive, right? We all have positive and negatives. And I think in suicide, when you're having deep suicidal thoughts, or your mental wellness has gone that low that you genuinely think that you can't get out of it, and that day's going to be, you're never going to come out of it, right? You feel like you're stuck, and that the only way out of it is to commit suicide, to relieve yourself or free yourself. But like that's so wrong, like, because you can come out of it and you can work through it, and you've just got to be able to, like, look at the positives in your life, or look at whatever you can that is not negative and strive towards that. Because no matter how bad it is, or the level of like where you're at in your head, but like when you, but then there's the catch-22. Like, when you're in that moment, you don't feel like, and there's really no one that can like rip you out of it. You've got to rip yourself out of it. Like, that's the one thing I always say, that if you want to like fix yourself, you have to want to fix yourself, because like you can get into that dark hole, but if you don't want to come out of it, it's hard to it's hard to do that, you know. Like, I've had to deal with that on so many different levels. I've over the last, you know, like five years, you know, I've had friends like that have, like, you know, taken their lives, and all the way up to like my brother took his life earlier this year. And it was one of those things that we like both have chemical imbalances, and he just had, like, you know, he'd had demons on his side since he was a young kid, and he'd fallen into drugs at a young age, and he'd battled that and tried to fix that. But it in itself, it eventually it took his life. And there was a period there where, you know, I know that he tried to help himself. He's come to America. He's gone to facilities. We've like worked on it. And the, you know, the last time I was with him, he was like, if it wasn't for the kids, I wouldn't be here. And we always kind of had those conversations, but like eventually it won, and it beat him, and he took his life. And it's like having to like understand like where people come from, and where they're at in those things. And I just genuinely think that he felt that it was going to be easier for ones around him to be gone than not to be gone. And it's such fucking bullshit.
Right.
It's like there were people that love and care for him and a wife and kids and a loving family, but like he was so far on the dark side that he was never going to come back out of it. And it was, it was sad.
Yeah, I've had a couple of friends in the last couple months commit suicide, and the all of them had either a child under one or a pregnant wife, and that was so hard for me to grasp. Like, I've struggled with depression before, and I've tried to commit suicide and ended up in the hospital as well before, but it was hard for me to grasp, like, when there's an infant or a child on the way, and that part was so that whole week. I mean, it was just hard for me to shake off, like, the thought for the child, so I'm so sorry that you had to go through that, and that there's
and this is still such a fresh wound for you, Luke. And you've taken on, essentially, you stepped into the father figure role, it sounds like, for his 3 young children.
Yeah,
right?
3 young kids. Yep.
So what has that shed light on for you? I mean, his death and the way that he decided to take his life, and then taking on these children. I mean, obviously, as tragic, traumatic, and terrible as it is that those things happened,
Yeah.
We try to bring a conversation here on this podcast to those places, because it's hard to talk about, but it's stuff that we do need to talk about. Otherwise, we don't get to move it through our bodies, which is what we need, right, to release. So when it comes to all those things that accumulated and happened, and it's a part of your life because it's your brother, and now these kids are very much a part of your life, what do you feel like is, like, the universe speaking through that story and that happening? What's it telling you? What do you
like, for me, like, the first thing that I just felt was those kids, and like, I like, like, instantly, without even thinking about it, I'm like, you've, like, got to be there for those kids and help them understand. And you can never, like, fill those shoes or whatnot, but it's in that moment you've got to look at the wife and the kids, and you just got to be there for them, and that was without an instinct for me. Like, I spent, like, I've done like 200,000 miles this year. I've spent half the year, if I'm not working, I'm like, have been in Australia and just been dealing with getting the kids moved into the new place, getting them out of where they were, getting them into school, getting their surroundings set up, making sure they're all good, making sure there's a support community there. And that's all you can do, And I think there are some people that, like, would say they would do that, but it's in that situation. It's like, for me, it was as soon as they announced my brother's death, it was, at the hospital, it was, my instinct just went to the kids, and I was like, all right, got to take care of the kids. Like, no even thinking about it. So it was just, for me, it came naturally just to be there, and as somebody that had struggled, like, with my own family issues and my own father issues, like, I will not let those kids grow up and be alone. And that's just, I didn't even think about it. It was just, just be there and do what you got to do,
How is it changing your life?
It's just one of those things, like, I, like, have dealt with friends that have been in the same situation I have, with people dying that have had kids, and, you look from afar and you're just like, shit, like, you don't think it's going to happen to you. And it's happening to everyone. How's it changed my life? I don't know. Again, it's just like, I was already on this path of trying to, like, help people, talk about their mental health, and trying to make it more of something that is, like, talked about more broadly in our community and not so hidden and shared. So again, I've unfortunately, I've kind of was a little bit conditioned for it, because I had been, dealing with it, not personally, but because of what I'd been through. I think now it's just given me more of, a fire to like make sure that I continue to like spread that message and continue to like help out. And I think that like, especially within like suicide or mental illness, like none of us are going to like change the world. The world's going to do what the world's going to do. But I think if we can all like pick, one thing to like spend our lives on trying to help other people or trying to fix something, then the world would be a better place. And unfortunately, I got stuck in the club of suicide and mental illness.
What do you do now to keep your thoughts from going there, to especially like after losing someone you love?
That hasn't done anything for me personally on like going to the dark side. But in saying that, I don't take medication, and I never did. I had issues in the past with substance. So like for me, like just to get shoved down a bunch of medication was like never an issue. So do I still deal with depression? I still deal with depression. And I still go into dark holes where I don't want to be around people. And that time suck. Those times suck, but I still do go through those times where life's hard, but like I still wake up and, put my pants on and walk outside and just deal with what I got to deal with. But do I still deal with depression? Hugely, and sometimes it's not there, and sometimes it's like roaring down. And just when it comes to me, I know to speak about it. I know to speak to the therapist about it. I know how I kind of deal with it, but like, is it gone? It's not gone.
Yeah. And I think such a huge part of that is asking for help, but knowing in that hopeless state of mind, when you're in this dark hole, that this is chemicals in our body, and in order to move them through our bodies, we sometimes need to literally move our bodies. We need to, visit with a psychiatrist and get somebody to help us do that sometimes. But there are tools out there. It isn't hopeless, because there's about a zillion ways, endless amounts of ways to help yourself out of that. So I'm just, I guess, speaking to anyone listening to this that might be struggling in that way. I wanted to ask you about your work with the students that you're currently speaking to often, and if you'd experienced, I guess, what your experiences are like when you go into those classrooms and speak to those kids. Because I feel like right now in our current climate, with social media, with video games, with the mass shootings in schools, family dramas, bullying, all the things that kids are dealing with, there's got to be a lot of darkness that these kids are trying to sift through with very little tools.
It's the hardest time for any teenagers everywhere, but especially in America, especially in public schools. Like, can you imagine like going to school and now it's like a regular thing for them to like have signs around to do like what to do when a shooter's active. Yeah. Like those signs are in schools. Like I go into those schools, social media influences again to like just be like have stuff shoved down you that to have this, that, or this person's prettier, or, like that aspect, and it's like, it's no different than like, a social circle in your school is no different than a social circle outside now. It's like, there's the popular kids that have, the more followings in the schools and have their cliques. And then there's the kid that has the Instagram and whatnot that has 5 followers. Like those kids still get emotionally picked on and beat up, or however it goes down, and, for us, or for me, with Find Your Grind and where what we're trying to essentially do is shine the light that there's a light out there. And, for us, it's like we really going into the career side of things. It's like we look at lifestyles and we just try and have people, identify with their lifestyles more and show that there's a lot more opportunity out there than just the regular box, and again, it's like, it's just such a tough time for like these kids to even transition from like high school into college, because these kids now are like going and getting these degrees, that their degrees are going to put them in debt and they're never going to use that degree, and they're deferring to get another degree so they can just get a job. And, I don't know, we're just trying to really shine a light that there's a lot more out there than just what has been the normal standard. And there really is like more opportunity to grow and work and do these things, that we just need to figure out a way to like have these kids get access to these worlds of, you know, where they can go into and work. But, you know, like I've had some really like awful like experiences with, you know, young teenagers like deaths and suicides that like, you know, I don't have an answer for these things of like, you know, young like girls. There was a school in Boston that we got called into, and 7 girls in the 1 grade in the same year all committed suicide.
Oh my God.
I spoke.
Yeah, I was reading that like 12 through 14 years old is the most common age for suicide now.
Yeah, you know, and it's we spoke at a school here in Southern California where we spoke at, and then 2 weeks later, the teacher had hung herself in the classroom, and the kids had walked in the next day. The janitor opened the door, and because no teacher was there, and the kids opened the door and walked into it, and we got called back into this school to speak to these kids, and it's just a dark time for everybody. And I think the one thing we've got to do, and like with Find Your Grind, that we are working towards, I think there's a few states now, New York's one of them, maybe Washington, where they've made it compulsory to teach about mental health. And I think that like we need to like create a compulsory curriculum that is taught from kindergarten into middle school, into high school. These kids need to be taught it like they're taught math, like they're taught English, like they're taught science, because these tools that these kids need to be taught. And the difference is teachers haven't been taught to teach about mental health. And we need to create an actual curriculum that is compulsory for all states all around the world, that kids are learning about mental health from a young age, so they can see the signs, not just for themselves. They can see the signs if it's a family member, if it's a friend. So if they see the signs, they understand what's going on and they understand it. Keeping it in the shadows and going down the roads we're going down of losing loved ones and the way that it's happening in such mass numbers now, I don't think it's going to get any better until we start educating these young kids and they grow up with it and they understand like the signs of mental health and you know, because like depression comes in all different forms and sizes, and I think that we really need to, you know, start creating some products for kids to start learning at a young age.
We really need to change what we're teaching in schools, not only mental health, but you know, things like love languages, even, you know, relationships, different styles of communication, nonviolent communication, you know, like all of those things are so important, and we don't teach any of them.
And taking away the taboo from those things being something we don't want to learn about it, especially the male population. We talk about the word, you know, we say toxic masculinity a lot on this show, but that idea of, well, I don't need help. I don't need anybody to, you know, give me any tools in this. My brain's just fine. My body's just fine. And all those ways that we reject the learning, the education, the tools that we actually need in order to survive and be sustainable in our brains and bodies.
Yeah, it's crazy though, right? Because you think about that, and it's like that macho man, and it's like they're good, they're this, they're that, and it's like it's that male between like 30 and 45 that is struggling the most right now.
100%. It's the person who's rejecting the help the most that's usually struggling the most, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we definitely, there's some pivoting that needs to happen. Some way we need to change the paradigm there, because it is.
But like we were saying in another episode, it's almost like everything going on in our country and everything that women are changing what they're attracted to and being vocal about that. It is causing a shift to happen, thankfully.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's it. Everyone just needs to keep acknowledging it, and that shift will happen. But it's almost just like
keep talking about it.
Yeah, but it's like, how many people do we have to lose until people
exactly.
You know?
And that's the thing. We need to soften to it, and the way we do that is through empathy. And it's unfortunate that we have to lose people in order for us to be shaken awake to that. You know, like in order to go, dude, I need to actually think about this stuff in myself. Yeah. And for my own children, and you know, whatever it is that shaking causes us to look at more deeply. All right, so pivoting slightly to a little bit of a lighter topic here. I've heard you have a Wiener Schnitzel tattoo, and fun fact: the president the president of I think it's the whole Wiener Schnitzel conglomerate, J.R. Ghilardi, he actually officiated my wedding, so it's really
He
random.
did not.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
So
Had his
I gotta
logo
know how you
tattooed.
ended up with the tattoo, though. Yeah, you know that guy. How'd you end up with that tattoo?
I don't know. Nah, we did a bus tour where we were helping out homeless people. We were feeding homeless people Wiener Schnitzels.
Hot dogs for
like
homeless?
Hot dogs for homeless for like 3 months, and I think we said if we'd reached, I don't know, $100,000 or something, that we would all get Wiener Schnitzel tattoos, and then we did that and some, I think. So then, like, I think it was Ryan Sheckler's board graphic guy, had sent this logo over. I think Sheckler got it first, and then all of a sudden we've all got them. So yeah, I have a Wiener Schnitzel tattoo. Skateboarding, luckily enough, hot dog on the side of my leg, ass, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. But the Wiener Schnitzel logo is like right there.
What's the Wiener Schnitzel mascot name? Tito?
I don't even.
Tito?
Is it Tito's?
Tito, I think. I don't know. TDO. What is it? What's
the hot dog?
What's their saying though? The
Wiener Schnitzel?
The world's greatest wiener, but I can't remember what his name is, but there's some correlation there anyway.
Is there really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Like the acronym for or something.
At least the corporate logo I have tattooed on my body, I know the owner. It'd be weird if I didn't. You know?
That's true. That's true. You don't have a monster one yet though, right?
No.
So let's see. What else do we want to pick your brain on here? Why did you decide to start public speaking specifically?
I kind of got thrown into it. It was like this weird, like, it was 2013, and I had met my now partner, Mike Smith, and he is a public speaker to young kids, but also does like corporate, whatever, like YPO and all these kind of like bigger things. And he'd kind of like pushed me into it. And that was like the original time when I started like kind of like voicing out about my depression. And all of a sudden I found it easier to like talk about it than to like, so then he helped me started like curating like my like speech essentially. And, you know, like my whole thing was kind of carved out through like, you know, athlete depression and then just kind of opening up about it. So it just kind of came naturally. It was, I had, through meeting Mike and, kind of trying to understand what he did. The first time I ever like saw him speak, he stood in an auditorium and it was 11th and 12th graders, and he made the cool kids uncool and the uncool kids cool. And I was like, super like, I was really didn't understand how he did that. Mm-hmm. Just with his words, and like 11th, 12th graders are so impressionable. And at that time I was still kind of searching for like me, the new me. And I got on a plane, flew to Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, a place I'd never heard of. And next thing you know, like I'm spending a lot of time there, and I now spend, a good amount of time out there. And I was, kind of going school to school, learning how to like perfect my like speech. And people are like, "What are you doing in Middle America speaking to high school kids?" And for me, I didn't really know. It was just made me feel good, and it felt right. And I kept doing it, and I couldn't really explain to people why I was doing it, and it, I had a couple different ideas, and I even took an idea to like Rob Dyrdek, and we shot and pitched this like, kind of like crazy TV show about the inner workings of like high schools and how high schools work. And what we've done is we've taken essentially like the four leaders of a school. We took like the lead football kid, the lead drama kid, the lead slam poetry, and then the lead cheerleader. And we made these kids live with each other and basically essentially switch lives.
Wow.
And these kids that essentially had gone to the same school but never really spoken, all like made fun of each other. In this case, that was the case. And then, you know, we had the lead football kid in drama class, and the vice versa. The football, but by the end of it, what we called it was only like a week of shooting. We called it like the United Nations of high schools, and these 4 kids essentially could bring the whole school together, but nobody had ever done that. So these are these different ideas that we were trying to essentially, it was like extreme makeover kind of style, but like in high schools. And unfortunately for us, it was done really well. It was shot really well. But it was probably like 10 years too late for it to be like a major success. We pitched Fox and ABC and all these big networks who were all super interested in it. But like the people that were buying these shows, like the one guy, Paul Tagletti from NBC's America's Got Talent. This guy's like, I think it's NBC. This guy's like thinking, he goes, this is a great idea. This could be like one episode. And it's like Dick and Mike, and we're all like sitting around there. And this guy had created a Celebrity Apprentice, and he's got these big posters there. And he's like, well, the show needs like, what we need is like an island, and we need like spinning chairs. And he just started naming like The Amazing Race and like America's Got Talent, started making these shows. And for me at that time, it was like, fuck, like it's a setback for us. And it was a setback I think we needed to get to where we were today, because if we had just gone and sold a TV show to NBC, like, you know, 7 years ago or whatnot, it really would have got lost and confused. Yeah. But it really, like, this guy was like, literally, I could fix education in one episode. And I was like, who the fuck does this guy think he is? And after having all those big meetings and like, even Lauren Dolger from MTV, she's like, guys, this is great. My number one show is about pregnant teenagers. Like, this is not for us. And it was just, we just missed the boat on that show. If it had been 10 years earlier, it would have been like a primetime show with, you know, extreme home makeover. But because it didn't happen, we kept pursuing. And, you know, we had then come to the idea of, all right, we're able to do live events. Live events are great, but we want to be able to leave something in the education system. So then we started hiring educators and principals and teachers and people that had written curriculums, and we started writing our own curriculum. So we started creating a product that we could leave in schools, that could be in schools, that was from our background. And that's when the Find Your Grind thing kind of started to, you know, evolve and explode pretty quickly, because the live events, we were able to, we just kind of like carved out a niche space and had, you know, gone from doing like, you know, like small schools to like, you know, like I think we filled up Michigan State basketball arena, and they bust in like 60 something schools.
Wow.
So it came from this like smaller idea into a much larger idea. And then when we reached that peak, I remember like, you know, we were, it was like 2000, I don't know, it was probably like 2 years ago, or like 2.5 years ago. And that's when we started just hiring these people to write these curriculums and put these things into play. And, you know, we're like barking up a huge tree that's going to take a long time to get there. You know, we're fighting education, and we're trying to make some noise, but like it's we've come a really long way. And now to be able to have partners like Amazon and TikTok and all these other brands in like that space is pretty cool, you know? So it's like these bigger companies are now starting to turn to us. Microsoft turned to us, and we create content for them now for schools. It's like these bigger companies are looking at what we're doing in a space that we know, you know, we know entertainment, we know music, we know sports, we know gaming, we know all these things. And that's what we're showing people. We're showing people our lifestyle and all the industries, but then all the jobs that come within it. And then being able to showcase these mentors and super mentors and really highlight this like real on education that had kind of never been done before.
That's amazing.
So that's half the time I'm like, we have no idea what we're doing, but we just keep moving forward.
Well, it's because you're at the forefront, which is amazing. And I think
most people feel that way.
Yeah. It's a little scary, but maybe I like to change the scary to adventurous now. Instead.
But that's actually my dream job. And I don't know if you've heard of Kind Campaign, but they do some. Yeah, that's if I could do anything with my time besides, you know, be a stay-at-home mom, which I am, single mom of my 2 toddlers, but that would be what I would fill my time with.
Yeah.
We're doing it through this podcast though. So
I like that. You're getting it done from home and taking care of the kids.
But I was going to say about your TV show that you guys shot, I feel like that can live on social media now at this point with IGTV or YouTube or whatever, and I would definitely look into that. It doesn't have to be sold to one of these big conglomerates, because honestly, a lot of them aren't going to be, they have to make
it could just be a YouTube. Yeah.
And it's tough because social media is really a huge game right now. I mean, you and I, Dingo, we are kind of, we've been in the same shoes as far as it goes, being under the conglomerates with Viacom. I work for Viacom currently with Bellator, and you've been with MTV and all that. So, I mean, these are huge companies with tons of money, but at the same time, they're aware they need to make these changes. They're buying less shows because they know they have to make these changes towards, people aren't necessarily all subscribing to cable anymore.
Yeah.
They've got Netflix.
Yeah,
Other options. So.
Yeah, no, that.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, you're so right though. It was like Viacom is, it's like, or not Viacom, but MTV. You look at MTV, for example, like they haven't been able to gain a new audience member in however long, right? They missed like Gen Z. And then rather than like trying to like attach themselves to young kids again, they've just gone back and they're regurgitating shows that worked 10, 12 years ago because they know they can get somewhat of an audience. Like The Hills is a perfect reference to like bringing that back, or Jersey Shore, these shows that like, all right, we haven't been able to get a new audience member. Let's just go and attack these people we had 10 years ago because we know half of them may watch it.
Right.
And you can't build a network off that. And if you look at, I think Viacom and CBS just made their acquisition, or it's about to happen.
Right.
They're merging, right? And like they're basically these falling media conglomerates that are losing out to the YouTubes and the Facebooks and all these people. So you're right. The big media beast has, apart from Disney to worry about, if you're not a part of Disney, and you're trying to like have people watch your news, you're in fucking trouble, and it's these young, you're right, the social media platforms and all these things. So yeah, no, we'll get there. And we just have to be very, we just have to be very picky on like where we put our finances and what we put into. But yeah, like my goal is to get to the point to where like we have all those types of shows that we give away for free that you can just watch. It's just where do you pull the money from to do that? And we're figuring that stuff out, and I think, that's where we'd love to get to is showcasing, is being able to showcase those types of shows that, again, like it goes back to like, doing good. And unfortunately the big media beast fell to like, oh, people want to see when people are struggling or failing or this or that, or like it's a disruptive stuff that took over. It's like how long ago have you seen like a show like Extreme Home Makeover like do what it did? Like you used to watch those types of shows and like you'd cry. Very, very rarely now do you watch a show that people put money into where you're like, oh, it's people are watching The Bachelor and The Bachelorette and they've got 20 different spin-offs of it because people just want to watch dumb TV because the world right now is so much chaos that
when people want to numb themselves.
That's it. That's what TV producers always just say. They're just here to numb people.
Yeah.
But
well, again, it sounds like
it seems like people are waking up. So
yeah.
Well, that's the whole thing. Social media gives you a platform to do whatever you want. So that's what it's there. That's what it's there to do. And, you kind of gain your own following or audience. Or
if you can use it to empower yourself instead of tear yourself down, I think that's a big struggle, especially like we're talking about, these kids that are using social media to compare themselves to others and then end up really hurting because of it. So,
but think about Instagram right now. Like, think about Instagram. Instagram knows that they've done that. And Instagram in like Canada and Australia have like been testing out these things where you can't see the likes and all these things, which then like destroys influence and all these people.
Right.
But Instagram knows that they're fucked up so bad because the world has lent this way that they're like, because I was speaking to some influencers that were saying that their Instagram feeds now only get shown to like half their people or this or that.
Yeah.
Like Instagram knows they fucked up really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would say it's not Instagram. It's not just Instagram fucking up. It's not even a fuck up. I'd like to rephrase the idea in our heads we have about blaming things outside of our bodies and find a way to take responsibility for like how we decide to follow other people or mute other people or unfollow or block or whatever we need to do in order to create a safe space for ourselves and teach that to our kids. Because at the end of the fucking day, if Instagram's not there, it's going to be something else that's going to be you're comparing yourself to. It's going to be something else that's bothering you. It's going to be the clique you don't fit into and the tribe you want to be a part of, but for whatever reason you're not. the money, the amount of money you're not making. It's going to be something that you're using to tell yourself that you're not good enough. And the actuality is, if we can figure out a better way to teach, ourselves and then our children how to understand and then know that we are enough and we are all those things that we're seeking outside of our bodies, and like look within and figure out the ways to do that, we heal ourselves. It's not about whatever.
Yeah.
You mentioned Rob Dyrdek. We're going to have Big Cat on the show. We just need to come up with a topic for us to discuss.
Awkwardness.
Awkwardness? That's actually what we bond over. So
that's what you guys should talk about.
That's not bad. We'll figure out something.
That's actually why we're good friends, because we're both
You're both awkward.
We have a question from our Magic Mob. Brennan asks, you've been really open about your struggles with mental health and your eating habits in relation to it. Could you explain a bit about how those things are correlated for you, and how or if you've overcome the issues you had around eating?
No, like me, like my eating is like a form of like depression. I like eat my, if I'm sad, I eat, right? And that's always been a thing since I was a kid. So I still haven't overcome that. I like still, if I go through like a dark period, I will like eat my way through it. Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's like, I don't know. It's like,
Well, you recognized it in yourself. So, I mean, that's definitely a start, right?
Yeah, right. It's like, I don't know. Whatever flaw I ever had, I've just been in the last 3 years or 4 years, I've just started telling people about it. And, little do you know, a bunch of other people have the same issues.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? And I was going to ask you about that. You are now creating another career around speaking about things that have been your hurdles in life, your struggles in life. And I wanted to know how much, or if you can express how that's helped you get through a lot of these things, because you kind of are speaking about them as you're going through them, which a lot of people wouldn't do. They would wait till they've already figured it out, and then they'd come back and say, oh yeah, well, this is how I did it, let me help you, which is, we need that too. But at the same time, like, you're being so brave and vulnerable in saying, hey, I'm fucking dealing with this shit right now, and I haven't figured it all the way out, but here's the things that have helped me so far. So how has that been a tool for you?
I think knowing that I used to like bottle all these things up as a kid, and I think like bottling everything up ended in my real like into my like real when I was like tried to commit suicide, and that was all a lead up to like bottling things up and like not being open and honest. So I think like inside of me, instinct is like, don't ever go down that road again. So how do you not go down that road again? Anything you're going through, I just kind of blurt it out. And like by blurting it out, that means that it's off my chest and that it's out in the open. So that pushes me through and it helps me through and gets me through that next day. And I think that's just without even like setting out to do anything. I think this natural instinct is like, all right, if you just bottle all your problems up, you're going to end up into a bad hole again. So not getting into that hole or like digging that hole for yourself is when it happens, or when you go through it, be honest about it. And when you are able to talk about something or get it off your chest, that's like half the battle itself. So I think that has, without, again, like setting out to do it, it's just kind of naturally kind of happened that way. And it seems to be working out, like I even think like just dealing with a lot of the stuff that I had to deal with my brother, I would rather than not, talking about it, I'd rather just talk about it because it's happened. And it's like, you still have to live with that. And by like being open about it, am I angry at him? Yeah, I'm angry at him, but do I love him? I love the shit out of him. And, like I will always like remember the good, but talking about what I've been through, again, it just helps me. So I don't end up in a dark hole and, end up in the same situation.
Wow. So I feel like, to sum it all up, maybe it's saying it out loud causes you to show up. It kind of forces you to, because now other people are witness to this. This is some shit you have to actually like show up for in yourself and out in public to some degree.
Yeah.
And it also reminded me of something we talk about on the show a lot, which is this 4-step mantra that comes from Michael Brody Waite. And it's practice rigorous authenticity, surrender the outcome, do the uncomfortable work. And then I added integrate with gratitude. And I think that's what you're doing. You're basically like, all right, here's the true shit. I'm going to say it out loud and surrender the outcome. Like, you might think I'm crazy. You might think that, you know, I'm fucked up for saying it. You might think something of me negative, but I need to say it out loud because that's the uncomfortable work that's going to help me get to healing.
Yeah.
So that's huge.
But that's the whole thing. Like, you know, like everybody everybody'd like to think they're perfect, but no one's perfect, right? And like, I think like being honest about your flaws is not such a bad thing when it's kind of been looked down on. But I just, you know, I think that we all have issues, and it's like, you know, people look at a family and be like, that family's perfect or this, and it's like the ones that you would think are perfect are usually the ones that are the most fucked up.
Totally. Yeah, we're always projecting some other illusion out there onto others, and it's not true at all.
It's like people are always looking for the grass is greener. The grass has never been greener.
Never greener. You just gotta you gotta make it green within, man.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. We're gonna lighten it up again here. We have a pick your poison from Randy on Facebook. He asks you, would you rather be able to detect any lie you hear or get away with any lie you tell?
Say that again, because I'm just going to process it.
Would you rather be able to detect any lie you hear or get away with any lie you tell?
Get away with any lie you tell.
Just get away with anything.
I wonder what lies you would tell.
I know.
Not anymore, but everybody said a couple of white lies.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I feel like people do white lies all the time. But if you were to be able to detect a lie, you would go crazy because you just feel like everyone is a liar.
Yeah. But
everyone is a liar.
To some degree. I mean, but you kind of know too, like if you just use your intuition and read micro expressions, you know, you could see when people are lying.
Yeah, but then at the same time, when you struggle with anxiety a little bit, or like everything seems like a red flags because of the people that you've been around in the past, it could actually ease your mind because you're like, oh, thank God,
I'm normal.
Telling the truth.
I'm just
right.
You're telling the truth.
But that's the whole thing. There used to be one of Deernick's old companies was called Rogue Status, and their motto was "Don't trust anyone." DTA. So I always took that model. Don't trust anyone. So everyone can lie to me because I don't trust you anyway.
That's a slippery slope, though. I feel like it makes you resentful or something. It
does.
Makes you like everybody, right? And then that leads to sad stuff. So, God, I don't know, Jade. What would you choose?
That's the thing. It really is a poison because either I would feel like I would go crazy because I feel like everyone is a liar from all the white lies, or I would be like, oh, thank God, here's a truth teller. I found one.
Yeah, well, yeah.
My anxiety's gone.
If they ever lie to you, you're alone forever or something, right? It could turn into
I mean, if it's like, yeah, I like your cooking and I, you know, like something like that, it wouldn't matter.
I feel like we all lie within the first second of meeting each other. It's like, hey, how are you? Fine. No, you're fucking not. You know?
Yeah, right?
That's not a real answer. But we all do that just because we don't have the effort to put more behind it, or we don't want to go.
But I do suck at lying. I do.
Don't they say that about like a lot of relationships just begin in lies?
Well, honeymoon stage
not
is
on purpose, I think.
I think
people don't realize that they're putting their best foot forward because they're in love and they're showing all their good cards, and then you know, it's like when the honeymoon or the infatuation stage, which isn't until like 6 months, I think, dies down. That's when you're like, I'm in a bad mood. Not pretending anymore.
I say 2 years is the honeymoon stage.
But I feel like Mercedes would agree maybe. I'm super I'm pretty raw, and I am pretty open with who I am, and if I'm feeling like I'm a mess, then I tell you I'm feeling like I'm a mess. I'm not in a great mood, whatever. And so I don't know. I think dating me is different.
I don't know. I've never dated you myself, but I have spent a lot of
you've gotten to know me.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure we all tell lies all day long to the world around us, but I think So I don't know what my answer is to that.
Yeah.
I guess I'd want to be able to detect any lie here, even though that sounds like a lonely ass life. All right, there's a few short question, right? There's a few short questions I'd like to ask everyone who comes on the show. First off, if you could hug your younger self right now, what would you say?
It's gonna be okay.
How old were you
That's
when you were
it.
hugging?
Probably like 9, 10, 11.
Yeah. That's right when your dad decided to
Yeah.
depart. We all need to hear that, man. Often, I think.
I could hear it today.
Yeah.
If you could have the whole world read one book, which would it be?
Are you a book reader?
No, I just started. So like I listened to this podcast recently that told me to that we're super addicted to not just social media, but we're addicted to our phones. We're addicted to emails. Like we have dopamine that like we go to our phone for that new text message or that social media or that email. It's like we're just so fucked by the phone.
Right.
So he was like, you need to like cleanse your brain of, if people could do it, they won't. If people could do it, they should do like 7 to 10 days. So like on 4th of July, I went to Thailand and I turned my phone off for 7 days. Wow. And I read books. I read Richard Branson's book.
Which is that, the fucked up one?
Becoming a virgin.
Oh, never mind. Sorry.
What do you mean? It's not fucked up. It's just. No.
I thought I'm thinking of Richard Manson or whatever his name is.
No. I'm not reading Charles Manson books. Okay.
Oh, Charles.
No, I thought you were talking about Everything is Fucked Up. I thought you were.
Yeah.
You wrote that also. Sorry.
Richard Branson did.
I think so. I don't know. We might have to edit this part out.
Okay, but anyway, that's not the book I would tell everyone to read. But I went and that's the last book I read. Well, I'm still reading it, but it's big. The first and only book I read for a long time was called The Power of One, and I don't know why, but it was a very good book and it stuck in my mind.
Okay.
The Power of One.
I haven't read that. We're gonna put that on the show notes. So. Power of One. I'm writing it down now.
I like what you said in the beginning, though. I was reading on my phone the other day that the average person checks their phone over 150 times a day. 150 times.
Crazy,
and it's
right?
Completely believable.
Oh,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
That goes to what we were talking about earlier. If we can understand ourselves, at whatever age you are listening to this, but also our younger generation, if we can help them to understand that we are these walking bags of chemicals, and it's just a matter of how we allow our chemicals to be manipulated throughout the day through the way we're perceiving life that's happening for us, not to us. So just the science behind that, I obviously am fascinated by, and not just the fact you brought up about how much we check our phones, but I mean the way that it affects our chemicals in our body, and we can all become imbalanced, and we do all become imbalanced as far as our chemicals go.
And it's energy.
Often.
Yeah, it's energy. And we're like, think about all the energy you're taking in from your phone and from media and stuff like that. So.
But it's everything though. It's text messages. It's everything that comes into your phone. It's not just social media. Social media, if you get the dopamine quicker and faster. Yeah. But it's everything. We're just now
feeling needed, validation, addiction to stress, needing to feel busy. Yeah, so much goes into it.
That's what I've done a couple of times this year. I did one 7-day where I wasn't on social media for 7 days.
Yeah.
That was a weird thing. But then once you're back into it, you just kind of live in life again. And what I try and do now is like on weekends, I try and not I don't really go on social media. Like I don't post or I try and stay away as much as I can. Obviously there's other times you can't, but I've tried to get my weekends back by just doing small things like that and adding that into your life and knowing that it's not everything, being inducted into everybody else's world is not what we were meant to be here for.
Yeah. That was one of my goals this year. Earlier in the year did mushrooms on a Saturday, and the whole Saturday, I felt like I experienced 70 years of soul growth. And at the end of the day, I was like, look at all I accomplished on a Saturday without my phone. Because even though I was on mushrooms, I was like, all of this was from being off my phone, actually. It wasn't the drugs. It was from being off my phone. And so I said, okay, from now on, phone-free Saturdays, because look at all you accomplish when you're not on your phone.
Yeah.
And I'm sad to say that I did not do that, but
you did not stick to that.
But every week I say that I will. So
Right.
I really just need the discipline, and it's all work-related stuff, but I really need the discipline, and that I am going to do it. I just need to find a way to.
This is a good reminder.
Yeah.
All right. If you could whisper one phrase to everyone on the planet, what would it be?
Oh, wow. That's a weird one. Like, what's the
You don't have to
between,
whisper. You could.
What's the difference between whispering and just saying it?
Well, whisper is like you got to get in real close and be intimate with them. You know,
you could just say it like God if you want.
Yeah, you could be like,
loud on a blowhorn.
Wow. I don't know. The future belongs to the misfits. That's just that because it's my tagline. So everybody should fucking know it.
But it's true too. I mean, in a sense, it's been your tagline, and at the same time, it's kind of what you're embodying in a sense. Like, you know, you say make the cool kids not cool and the uncool kids cool. It's kind of the same thing, you know?
Yeah.
The misfits.
Yeah.
We're all misfits. We're all weirdos. Even the cool kids.
True.
All kinds of drama and shitty stuff going on.
It's so true.
So,
Luke, before we let you go, where can people find you online?
Find Your Grind for like the platform for everything we kind of talked about today. So just Find Your Grind, the website, the apps Find Your Grind, Instagram's Find Your Grind, and then me, I am the Dingo in Snow for everything that is ever out there.
Okay.
Amazing. So I just want to say before we let you go that I am.
Where's this light?
It's.
You look angelic.
You do. Now you got the angel light on again. I'm a huge fan of all you're doing, Dingo, with your platform.
Yeah.
And I think your efforts and the work you're doing is really changing people's lives, and not just the kids you speak to, but also the adults who are watching you make major moves towards finding a way to be of service during your time spent on this planet. So it's really incredible stuff. And I know I'm deeply inspired by it. So thank you for being such a light.
Aww.
Yeah, I
that
feel
means
the
a
same
lot.
way.
Thank you.
I briefly dated Austin Carlisle and met you through him, like really late at night. I don't think anybody was sober. But then then never again after that. And then now preparing for this episode, I was like, man, I wish I had actually gotten to know the guy back then, because you're such a light. So
thank you so much, girls. That means the world.
Yeah.
I'm just here, just doing my part.
Yay. Thanks, Luke.
You.
Cool. Okay, so that's it. All you have to do is end your call and we will get your audio, and but don't end it till I say bye.
No, I'm not going to end it until you say bye. But what do? I just hit stop video?
Oh wait, he's recording?
No. You should.
No, I'm not recording. I see a recording up on the left. So I don't have to do anything.
Oh.
No, you just hang up essentially.
Audio, so I got confused.
We get his audio, I'm saying.
Yeah. I hope you do.
Yeah, I'm recording it. Okay, so you're good to go.
Thank you so much, girls.
Thank you. We'll let you know when this is coming out. We'll send you, we make little promo videos and stuff for it. So we'll send you all that good stuff when that.
Cool. And then we'll do vice versa. I want to get you guys on the Find Your Grind one.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
We can share.
Yeah. Me too.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
It's always so awkward trying to get the old Zoom hang up.
Also, we're like looking with smiles, like
waiting. Oh God. Okay, so fatal flaw. Well, not fatal, but oh shit, I didn't hit record on Audacity until this. I had already asked one question, so I have to say my pieces at some point, or I think he can take it from Zoom. So I'm gonna see.
Well, he's taking his from Zoom, but I don't know how he does that, if he separates the audio or not.
Because the video, because it comes separate too. So I think he can just take mine from that, but just in case, I can always record it. Yeah.
Might be easier for him. Whatever's easiest for John.
Yeah.
Best.
All right. I really like Dingo. Feels weird. I don't
Yeah.
know. Still feels weird calling him Dingo. I don't know if you say Luke or Dingo, but I love Luke Dingo. He's
What is
great.
a dingo?
I think it's like a type of dog, but it's an Australian. A dingo ate my baby. You've never heard that saying?
No.
Oh, I don't know what it's from. Some old movie. Someone's gonna comment about this episode with exactly what it is, and will be ashamed that we forgot and don't know, because I did use
Yeah.
it, but apparently that wasn't important information for my brain to hold on to.
Yeah.
All right, what's your magic trick today, Jade?
So mine it's pretty simple, and I'm sure it's not the first time you've heard it, but it's worded differently. To ask yourself, what were you worried about 3 problems ago? A lot of times people say like 3 years ago or whatever, but what were you worried about 3 problems ago? Can you remember? You don't have to say what it was, but
I can't remember anything usually.
I can't remember this morning.
Yeah.
We tend to, and I'm sober, I just have 2 toddlers.
Yeah.
We tend to think that our problems are so urgent though, and need all of our attention right now.
Mm-hmm.
But that anxiety and urgency is never what ends up solving the problem. And you're actually putting yourself through it twice by worrying so much about it. So whether the problem you had 3 problems ago solved itself or it blew up, you're still here. And even reading this, which by the way, this question, what were you worried about 3 problems ago, was something my favorite writer, Elizabeth Gilbert, posted. But even after reading that quote and formulating this magic trick, I still today thought my problems needed all my attention, and I barely breathed all day. I can't remember the morning. And I can guarantee you that 3 problems from now, the ones from today, will be completely solved and most likely forgotten. So my invitation for you is not only to ask yourself that question, but to also just allow that the fact that you don't remember it, most likely, allow that to make us feel how small everything really is, and know it's all a part of the path to get us to where we're going. And we're learning with each problem, solved or unsolved.
I like that.
Thank you.
It reminds me of when you're in a real pickle, or you feel like this is overwhelming and I can't deal, to think of what will you think about this situation in 5 years from now? You know, kind of putting yourself in that same perspective of, this might seem huge and overwhelming. This problem might seem big right now, but the perspective is all that matters. And so if you can realign that.
And your success rate for getting through bad days and getting through problems is 100%. So we're all doing pretty good. What's your magic trick?
All right. My magic trick is, when saving people's contacts in your phone, name them with the title that highlights their largest career and personal goals. So for instance, Jade, you're saved in my phone as world-renowned space healer, top-ranked podcast hope, world-renowned sacred space holder. Why can I not fucking say this today?
I don't know, but I'll listen to it a couple times.
Okay. For instance, Jade, you're saved in my phone as world-renowned sacred space holder, top-ranked podcast host, cherished mother, and prolific healer.
Okay.
Okay.
Say it again. We might need sacred space holder. That's nice.
You need me to say that one more time, huh?
Top-ranked podcast host. When I was on a dating app, there were a couple of guys, I guess, would look me up and they'd be like, "So you host a 5-star podcast?" And I was like,
yes, I do.
I like hearing that. I like when you put it that way.
When you put it that way, yes.
Cherished mother and prolific healer. Thank you.
Yes.
I accept. I accept.
I feel like, I'm saying it. It can be a compliment to you. I hope it is, but it's also the things that I know you want most.
Yeah.
So and especially,
speaking it into my life though. So
every time you call to, I see that pop up. So it's like,
cool.
A way to make it resonate more. I need
to do that to my phone. Mercedes, you just have a crystal ball and 2 dancing women next to yours. I
kind of need that too, though. That's good. That's like calling in my feminine femininity.
It used to be a fork and knife, because we're always obsessed with like, where's the food? We're in survival mode. When are we going to eat?
Oh my God. I love it.
Well,
I like it.
I love that. That's a great idea. I am going to put that into practice.
Cool. It's a simple tip.
Yeah.
Use that magic.
All right. Magic Mobbers, thank you so much for tuning in and taking this journey with us. If this episode held some magic for you, please share it with your friends and family. This would mean so much to us. And don't forget to join us on our Instagram page at The Magic Hour and let us know what your favorite episodes have been so far. We appreciate all your feedback and want to know what's lighting you up.
Yes, we do. And we release a new episode every Monday, you guys. You already know this, so you can catch us again next week or go listen to some of our past episodes in our podcast library. We will meet you there. Until then,
be a light. Big thank you to at Raytone Royal for our intro jam and to John Aaron Garza from Real in Motion Productions for producing the show. Stay magical, friends.
Your phone, wherever it is, has been super loud the whole.
Really?
Episode. Yeah. So I don't know if that's going to be an issue. I didn't hear it much when you were talking on this last thing, but if you want to say that last piece again, you could, just so it doesn't.
My coworkers just started trying to decide what we're wearing on Thursday, so it's been nonstop.
Well, I don't know why, but it's really loud wherever it's sitting this time.
That's so weird because I don't hear it at all, and it's on a cushion.
That is weird. But you can put it on silent by just swiping down in the little, you know what it is.
But if your phone is open, it still vibrates even if it's on silent, or even if it's on the nighttime mode, it still vibrates.
But why are you looking at it? We're podcasting.
No, because I'm using my notes as my thing.
Oh, you didn't print it.
No, it got messed up during the move.
Okay. Do you want to say that last piece? It just vibrated in the middle of that one.
Sure. Okay. Big thank you to at Raytone Royal for our intro jam and to John Aaron Garza from Real in Motion Productions for producing the show. Stay magical, friends.
I hope the dog that was barking in the first half of this interview wasn't super loud. Could you hear it on my end?
No, there were kids outside my window, but
I heard those a couple times, but there's a damn dog literally barking every 3 seconds somewhere in my neighborhood. So John, this last note is for you.
John's really good.
I didn't record on Audacity until Jade got into her second question, which was the one that says, what the hell does it say? Where's page 2 of this thing? She says, during the time in your life, is that the right one? Yeah, I think it's during the time in your life when you're really struggling through your own darkness, what's helped you see the light at the end of the tunnel when you thought all that was hopeless, something like that. I started recording then, so you might have to use my audio from Zoom, or I can go back and record.
But you're not gonna have your feedback to him.
It's all on Zoom. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I guess it doesn't matter to redo it on Audacity.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. And I think the intro was a good read, too.
Even if it's not, we have 2 from the recording.
Well, we didn't record the full intro. Remember, we just recorded the bio.
Oh, today?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you recorded the bio on the intros the other time.
Yeah, I think this one was a good one, but the problem is it's on Zoom. It's not on Audacity because I didn't record it.
Oh.
Yeah. But anyway, John, that might be really confusing. Feel free to give me a call if you are confused on that, because it's kind of a lot to explain.
We're not airing this for at least over a month.
Okay. I'm stopping Audacity.
Got a little boring here and there, but
I know. I told you that's how, kind of rambly.
But it's still, I mean, if we trim it down, which isn't fun, but if we trim it down, it can be really good.
I think because of who he is and like people will relate to.
Well, it's the hero's journey. Mm-hmm. So that's what makes it good. But the whole this network and then network and then MTV said this and then ABC said that. It was like,
no, I know. Plus I don't want any really of that on there, just generally.
Yeah.
That's not interesting, but
yeah.
Okay.
But it has potential. I really am excited for tomorrow. I'm really tired. I need to get some really good sleep tonight.
All right, you ready to go? Do we have anything else we need to do right now? I wanted to let you know on that.
Did you get the calendar invite for September 11th? No. That's when we're going to do Sylvie.
Oh. You put a new one today?
Yeah. Oh my God, my hand is getting
It just came
some intense wrinkles.
random. Where was Sylvie's? I thought she already was scheduled for something.
Yeah, she had an emergency with a client, remember? It was
Oh, and then she just booked it right now.
Yeah, you're available the 11th, right? You said you didn't have anything that week besides our event.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do that. And then are you going to book your flights or?
Yeah, I got to do that. I'm going to put on my
Okay.
little list right now. I've been trying to figure out if Chris is going to come. What day should I come in then? I'm thinking
Well, let's record
Friday?
let's rent a studio on Saturday. Our event's on Sunday.
I'm supposed to go to Eric Godsey too, you know?
Did you book that?
No, but
He records his on the weekends. It's the only time he can use the studio, so that works out perfect.
Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
But what time are we going to record?
I've been only focused on the event. But we're not recording anything on the first weekend of the month. I mean, the first week of the month, because that's going to